We're going to get on the trolley here in just a minute to take a ride around town.
Permanent residents up here in Comstock. We get about 10 feet of snow in the wintertime, and if we're lucky, about 5 or 6 inches of rain in the summer. So far this summer, we haven't been that lucky. On the left, on the street above, is Piper's Opera House. That's the third opera house built in Virginia City by John Piper. First two burnt down. We're celebrating 150 years of Piper's on the Comstock. All of the famous theatrical people from the late following the Carson River east of here, on their way to the California gold fields. When they stopped to camp at night, they started practicing their painting techniques in the river. They started seeing a little bit of color, a little bit of gold. A few people stayed on. Over the next several years, they made their way up the mountain here, had a little mining camp going. Didn't have a name or anything. The story goes a miner from Virginia was on his way back to his cabin one night with a bottle of whiskey. He fell and he broke his bottle of whiskey. His friends laughed, but he dusted himself off and said, "I christened thee Virginia." Nobody laughed, the name stuck. The Way It Was Museum on the right has some of the better displays up here on how the mining operations were conducted in the 1800s, plus a pretty good bit about how the folks lived up here in the Comstock prior to the 20th century. Just to the left above these houses in that canyon right there, two miners named McLaughlin and O'Reilly were panning for gold in a creek. They found enough gold there they felt they could go ahead and file a claim. Before they had an opportunity to leave, however, a rider rode up, introduced himself as Henry Comstock, told those miners they were mining on his 160-acre ranch. Well, that was a lie, but the miners didn't know it. They talked it over, decided to form a partnership. I got a friend over here. Opened up the Ophir mine. Well, Comstock lied to them. He went down to Carson City. He started telling the folks in Carson City that he discovered gold up here in the mountain. Well, they started calling it Comstock's Gold. Yeah, lie or not, the name stuck. We still call it the Comstock Gold today. Elevation at the bottom by the 7-Eleven's about 4,400 feet and 6,700 feet at the summit.
Oh wow, 87
motorcycle rider, that's a nice little ride.
When we came up from
off to the right here, we have the Silver Terrace Cemetery, including a Catholic, a Protestant, a Knights of Pythias, an Oddfellows, and a Masons. They have a railroaders section, a miners section, a firemen section. A tailing pile. On the other side of that tailing pile is a Chinese cemetery. Down the bottom of that canyon and up about a quarter mile is a Jewish cemetery. We do have one more little cemetery we mentioned on this tour. Up the street here in the 1800s, there was a red light district. One of the ladies that worked there's a little spot over there across the canyon. It's really hard to pick out. Inherited that dynasty and built the Hearst Castle over in California. All due to the monies his dad made right up here in the Comstock. This flat area here to the left was the Virginia and Truckee Railroad Yard. The V&T Railroad was known as Queen of the Short Lines. It was in operation from 1869 to 1939 between Virginia City and Carson City. At one time they had 22 steam locomotives operating between 40 and 45 trips a day. In 1872 they opened up a spur from Carson City to Reno to tie in with the Central Pacific Railroad there. That stayed in operation until 1950. This red building here is the old freight depot. I'll point out the ticket office a little later. On the right side of the trolley, this block and the next block, we're known as the Red Light District of Virginia City. They dug over 750 miles of shafts, drifts, and tunnels underneath Virginia City and Gold Hill, most of which are still standing today, being held up by timber brought over from the Lake Tahoe Basin. If we could stretch them all out into one long tunnel, we could go underground from here to Phoenix, Arizona. This yellow building on the left is the Comstock History Center. In the window there you get a little glimpse of the Dayton number 18 steam locomotive, rebuilt several years ago for static display only. They didn't rebuild the boiler. You got a little church, the red brick, St. Mary's in the Mountains, Nevada's first Catholic church. The Great Fire of 1875 destroyed both previous churches. They were immediately rebuilt, however. When they rebuilt St. Paul's, they didn't use any nails at all in the framework. It's all held together with wooden pegs or dowels. It's the Mackey Mansion. John Mackey came to Virginia City, began work as a miner. But John Mackey, James Flood, James Fair, and William O'Brien became known as the Silver Kings. John Mackey outlived his three partners. When he died around 1903, he was worth in excess of $80 million. The University of Nevada in Reno has the Mackey School of Mines bearing his name. one of the last mining colleges in the United States. Right over here on the left is the Comstock Gold Mill tour. One thing about that train, it's not a fast train. After across the canyon, you can see that tailing pile, the gray building, the concrete and steel head frame. That's the combination mine. The combination mine was the deepest mine in Virginia City. It goes down 3,261 feet. The silver dollars at the Queen are a tribute to that mine. As they reached the lower levels of that mine, due to hot water in the area, temperatures reached up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The miners could only work for about 10 minutes at a time while being sprayed with water and chewing on ice. They could take a 20-minute break and go back to work. They operated 3 8-hour shifts, 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. Miners didn't complain much. They were some of the best paid miners in the country. They made about $4 a day. Most miners in this country only made $1 a day. Around the corner here to the left you see the B&T maintenance yard. That is the site of the original maintenance yard for the B&T Railroad. They don't open new classes back in 1936, due in part to the open pit mine over here to the left. It is one of the last school tours. Monetary standards of the world fostered many new industries, helped build San Francisco in the 1800s, helped rebuild San Francisco after the 1906 earthquake. On October 31st, 1864, Nevada was admitted to the Union as the 36th state, due in no small part to the gold and silver of the Comstock. More balcony there, thanking the folks of the Comstock for their help in the North winning the Civil War. Up ahead here, we'd like to tell a story of a couple of miners for one reason or another disliked each other. One miner purchased a piece of property up here and began building his home. When the second miner found out about it, he bought the adjacent property. When the first miner was just about done with his house, the second miner moved his house to the other end of town. He said, I'm going to put my house so close to that man's house that he'll not be able to enjoy the cool breezes of summer or the warming sun in the winter. Take a look out the right side of the trolley, folks, the red and white houses on the street below as we pass by and look between the two houses. See just how close together they are.
Oh.
I think that miner accomplished his mission. We call them the spite houses. It's closed up for the day, though. On the left, on the street above her.
We're going into the Way It Was museum here in Virginia City. This wagon is typical. It's a timber wagon. Although many used to haul the heavy timbers need to shore up the tunneling in deep far reaches of the mine. Some models have the rear half detachable, allowing the wagon to haul much larger timber. Here's the Way It Was museum. We didn't get to go into it because it was closed by the time we got there after the tour. Here's the guy. It seems to be panning gold, it looks like. Here's the guy up on the roof. I guess it's a depiction of a typical miner. He's got his dynamite, I see here. Looks like the miner is taking it easy here. That's his cot over there, and there's this wood-burning stove and his lanterns.